my gratitude practice became the key which a few years ago unlocked inner peace and calm for me. And today, in episode 4 of the Windsor Arc series, I will share everything I learned in my own experience and in my clients' work to help you build your own unique gratitude practice. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Maria, and this is your channel for creating a calm and balanced life. There is so much that's already been said about the positive healing effects of gratitude out there, but I just wanted to very briefly outline the scientific benefits. The entire point of this Windsor Arc Soft Transformation series is to help you learn how to shift your nervous system to parasympathetic state. This is like the basic biological anatomical thing, because when we live our life from the parasympathetic state, we make better decisions, we enjoy life, our digestion improves. The other word for parasympathetic mode is rest and digest. And that is true. And in my health coaching, I learned that for physiological health, it is extremely important to maintain the parasympathetic state of nervous system. And of course, life happens and we can't always control our circumstances, but we can control how we respond to them. And further, in later episodes, we will also talk about eliminating avoidable stressors and decluttering your life, literally and figuratively. But today I want to start by focusing on what you can do right here, right now, which is purely an inner work thing and which will cause a snowball of wonderful benefits both for your mental health and physical health. The thing is that a lot of times, at least in my experience when I was younger, I lived in the middle of what's called a victim mentality and thinking that life was happening to me and feeling very little sense of control over what was happening. And in that sense, the life-changing shift for me happens when I read the Subtle Art book by Mark Manson, because that helped me shift my mindset into more of a creator mode. And now, since many years, I live with full awareness that I create my life. Everything in it, every day. My today is the result of decisions and mindsets that I had yesterday or a week ago or a month ago. And by the same token, my mindset and what I do and think and wish for today will form my tomorrow, my year from now. This sense of ownership of my life was very important. And gratitude practice in that sense was instrumental as a tool in the toolbox of being the creator of your life. Because when we focus on the resources that we have, on the positive things we have, we actually can be more masterful, more empowered in creating whatever we wish to create. And most importantly, we help our nervous system stay in the parasympathetic state longer. Even as a practice, when you sit down and for a few minutes a day, you just think about all the wonderful things that are present in your life, you are in that parasympathetic mode without any meditations or anything yet. It is it's the easiest thing, like especially for me, because for many years, most of my adult life, I used to think that meditations were not for me until I learned what works for me meditation-wise, and it was more than 4 years ago, and that was also life-changing. Let me know in the comments if you would like to know more about my experience with meditations and what worked for someone who thought they were not cut for meditations. But gratitude practice was essentially like my one of my original forms of meditation, along with physical exercise, like and walking. Because in these moments of true presence in the now, in the present moment, I was helping my nervous system, I was helping my mind. And another very important thing is we have RAS, the RAS part of our brain, and we can help our brain see more things which are available to us and more resources, and look for solutions on a very practical level when we practice gratitude regularly. Now, I hope this made sense. I apologize. I'm just recording this video as it flows, and I trust the flow of what I'm saying right now. And like, let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like me to clarify anything. In terms of what worked for me and what I can share, what works also well for my clients, because in my health coaching, I don't just talk about nutrition and movement. I also pay a lot of attention to the mental health and holistic well-being. So what works well for most people is to create something that is uniquely tailored to you. Because the caveat here is that when you try to do exactly what is prescribed somewhere and it doesn't work, it can be discouraging. And I've seen a lot of people quit something good just because, it doesn't, like, they can't do it by this societally prescribed norm. But who's to say who is to say what is supposed to be? Please, like, that's maybe also part of my coaching work, and just like wisdom that no one asks for that I share, is that do everything the way it works for you. And in terms of gratitude, for example, I struggled really with like daily journals, which asked me for like a certain number of things to record each day. Because truth is that every day is different. And, some days when I could think of like 5 things I'm grateful for, okay, wonderful. But then some days maybe there's only one thing, and I would feel a bit like, I don't have enough to be grateful for, kind of thing. And it sort of implied that every day it had to be something new. It had to be something like, a stranger held the door for me, or someone said something nice about my outfit, or, like, I'm grateful for this and that. But I found it wasn't really working for me that well. And I know it works super well for a lot of people, but I urge you to really listen to your intuition and find out what works uniquely for you, and make that the basis of your gratitude practice. And now a little bit about what works better for me, and that is sort of in line with how everything else works. It's the same when I tried at first making sourdough bread many years ago, and I tried to create my starter, by the recipe with all the measurements. It didn't work. And then a few months later I tried, and I just combined the flour and the water, and it worked beautifully. And it was a wonderful experience for me to make my sourdough bread, but it was a totally intuitive experience, because I can't, for the life of it, for the love of God, I can't measure things. And the same with tarot reading, because when I first tried to read my tarot cards in a very like academic way and like really look at the meaning of each card, I was just lost. Whereas reading intuitively and using different decks with different imagery helped me, because I am a visual person, it helped me really connect with my tarot practice and develop it. And over time, of course, I learned the original meanings of each different card, but the shift came when I stopped trying to do things like academically and do it more intuitively. But you do you, you do what works best for you. And if it is best for you to do like 3 things you're grateful for every day, by all means, do that. But if that is not something that resonates with you, then please, I urge you to just spend a few minutes, maybe even just 1 minute a day, reflecting on something you are grateful for in that moment. No obligation to make a list, no time obligation to spend 5 minutes in gratitude. Just do what feels right for you. And for me, oftentimes it's actually things which even happened in the past, long past, but which still bear resonance in my present day. And I'm generally a reflective person, and I generally tend to remember all the good things that people did or all the great circumstances that happened. So that works better for me. And then if something really wonderful happens that day, I'm also grateful for that. But I no longer put this pressure on myself to think of 5 things that I'm grateful for today, like which are new, because like there are things I'm grateful for every day, continuously, because they still every day bear presence. And the other time, a few days ago, I ran a Ask Me Anything on Instagram, and someone asked me about lifelong lessons, which are still very true today. And I remembered my maternal grandfather, and I realized that his legacy is still very much alive within me and informs how I live my life. Because while I'm very grateful for also my grandmother and everybody else, like I'm extremely fortunate to have known absolutely amazing people in my life. But just speaking of things which inform my life on a daily basis, I'm very grateful to my maternal grandparents, and for different reasons, because they each brought something unique that still lives within me. And my grandmother, who introduced me to these long conversations. We used to drink tea after dinner or lunch, and she would tell me the stories of her childhood and youth. And I'm the kind of person, I love listening to the same thing over and over again. Like, it gets better every time I hear the same thing. And she was the kind of person who would sit down and tell me the same story. And I remember everybody else was like, oh my God, there we go again. And I'm like, oh, please tell me. So yeah, this was a very warm thing that still is with me. I love sharing stories with my children, and thankfully they have curiosity about it. And my grandmother also introduced me to the resourcefulness and being like improvising based on what you have at the moment. And I later, when I told my oldest son about my childhood, he opened my eyes to the fact that, as he called it, I grew up in the conditions of extreme poverty, but I hadn't realized it at the time. And largely because my grandmother was very resourceful with cooking, and she made wonderful things out of what now looking back, I realized were very simple, basic ingredients. And she made cooking through kitchen alchemy. And she never measured anything, which is probably why I don't measure anything. She always let me help from the earliest age, and it was actually very rewarding, because as I grew older, she allowed me to help her with more advanced things. So yeah, this resourcefulness. So I always felt very abundant because she made just like daily nourishment, the food, because I think food is important. She made it like such a creative, diverse thing using just a few very basic things, basic ingredients. And I think I carry this within me as well in my improvisation, in my rejection of all measurements. Yeah, but it's also now a big part of my creativity in cooking, thanks to her. And my grandfather, he, I'm very biased when I talk about my grandfather because in my experience, he was just like the most magical, amazing person ever. And he was also the one who always loved me and accepted me unconditionally, which that was important and unique. And given the circumstances we were living in, and he made everything magical. He made everything an adventure, and something that I try to pass on to my children. He also gave me the love of languages because we used to go on like these walks. We lived in the city, but he always brought me to parks, and he actually in the parks he taught me to forage mushrooms, and he actually knew what mushroom is good, what mushroom is bad. So he taught me everything I know about nature, and he was able to bring magic just by, he would take a little twig, a stick, and like make a little like dog or something out of it, like just carve. He was very good at working with wood. And the languages, we would go for a walk and he shared, and it's only later occurred to me how special it was because he shared the very first words I knew in his ancestral language, and he did it like in a fun way. He would just rhyme. He himself only remembered a few words because very unfortunately in the culture and society he grew up and lived in, it was erased. His culture was erased quite consistently. And many years later, my mother and my uncle told me that they were surprised because he never shared his language with them. But I think the era, the historical circumstances were such that they already had a hard time enough. They were teased at school, bullied just for their last name. And so I guess it was part of his like self-preservation, like to raise his culture from his kids. And that made it even more special that he very delicately, very gently passed it on to me when I was very young. And I have been holding on to it for my entire life. And that concept of learning like a foreign language in just like this casual, fun, warm way, I think that's what became the foundation of me loving languages, because I love learning foreign languages in general. So this, for example, for me is something that I'm grateful for every day, the legacy of my grandparents, and it lives in me. It is something I do my best to pass on to my kids in my parenting, the best of it. And that's something I include that in my daily gratitude practice. I don't need to like invent the wheel and think about something new. I'm just every day grateful for that. And on another note, gratitude is also a beautiful way to transmute and alchemize potentially painful experiences into something beautiful and healing. And it's also something I've been recently so inspired by what I see just around me. And I saw there was like this Halloween themed "What kind of witch are you?" post. And I don't know what kind of witch I am, but based on the zodiac sign, it said I'm the shadow witch. And my special power is being able to transmute something dark and painful into something light. And I actually resonated very deeply, because I think that's where actually gratitude has become the secret ingredients I use. Because I guess it's just how I look at things. And my American mom, when I first came to Texas, she called me Pollyanna. And age 16, that was maybe easier than later in life to be that kind of person who sees the good in everything. Because I must admit, in my later life, I went through a dark, very dark phase where I didn't see anything good anywhere. But I got back to myself, and gratitude was what unlocked the path back to myself. Because ultimately, reflecting back on my now almost 40 years of human experience, it's the way we look back at things. Because looking back, even some of the hardest, heaviest experiences ultimately led to something beautiful. And I think I also, by the way, heard something very interesting in one of the recent YouTube videos by Mark Manson, and he was talking about resilience and the difference between what becomes a challenge and what becomes a trauma. And a lot of that, I think, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that, a lot of it was in the mindset. And I think what was very transformative for me was when I reflected on some of the really heavy periods of my life, and I realized how much I have grown from them. And I reflected on some people who I can only say were there to destroy me on a mission. And I realized that I actually became myself thanks to that. That I think maybe I had to be pushed to the breaking point, and I had to burn down and rebuild myself to be who I am. And I am very happy with who I am today. I am super grateful for everything that shaped me. Childhood, adolescence, adult years. And it has been such a deep realization. It has been sort of coming in stages. This year especially. I feel like this year I'm really stepping into myself fully. And yeah, I'm now truly in my heart. I feel like this expansive feeling in my heart chakra. The feeling of gratitude for everything and everyone, and especially all the hard parts, all the painful parts, because I am who I am, thanks to that. And that is the power of gratitude. And of course, just daily, if you can bring more things in your life which you're grateful for, it's only good. Like, for example, for me, I also started my creative practice, and last episode we talked about introducing a creative practice. I started mine with some watercolor markers, and this morning, oh my god, I got the watercolor markers. I had no idea what I was going to do with them, but like I just I learned to trust my intuition to the extent where if my intuition says this is it, this is it. I'll get it. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. And then a few weeks later, it turns out, oh, this is what I need for something else, which is important. So I actually this morning, just a few hours ago, got a fantastic idea that I'm so excited about. And that's where I can use my creativity and share some of the things I would like to share. And I'm so excited, but I can't say any more about it because it's just a few hours old, this project. So stay tuned. You may learn more about it. I think it can be something really nice. And I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for the markers. I'm very grateful for this idea. I'm very grateful for this beautiful new day. And yeah, so I hope this video was somewhat useful at least. I know it's not a typical 5 ways to bring gratitude in your life kind of video, but more something to help you connect with yourself, hopefully share my energy and inspire you to bring more gratitude in your soft winter arc transformation. And I will see you again here next Thursday for the next episode of the series. And I'm so thankful to you. That is my today's big gratitude. Thank you very much for watching this video, for choosing to spend your time listening to my ramblings. And thank you. And I'll see you here next Thursday. Wishing you a fantastic day wherever you are. Bye.